3 centuries, the Baltic had felt like a Swedish lake. Long ships crossing at will, villages burned, amber and captives stacked like cordwood, hymns of victory poured into mead. Predators thrive until the prey learns. In the coves and creeks of Curonia and Oesel, shipwrights listening to wind and tide built vessels the North had not planned for. Flat-bottomed, quick and ghost-like in shoals, where heavy dracars ground their ribs. What looked like barbarians were engineers in fur, rethinking water the way a hunter rethinks a trail. The change began as static you could ignore. A patrol late, a keel that never returned, a lighthouse keeper swearing he saw sails vanish into fog without a wake. Then a summer Tuesday broke the trance. From the fortress on homeland, a watchman squinted into wrongness. No neat lines, no striped squares of Viking cloth. What came looked like swarm, not fleet. Oeselians rode low and fast, sliding over reefs the Swedes trusted as fences. The Battle of Homeland lasted as long as it takes terror to take a shape. Iron hooks bit Swedish gunnels, then not boarding parties but jars, pitch on fire, lime to blind, sacks that writhed because they held snakes. Decks became traps. Veterans of Paris and the Seine flung themselves overboard in mail that turned lungs into stones. Honor means little when your eyes are eating fire. But the horror the North feared was postscript. A man dying with steel in hand dies into Valhalla. A man dragged into a forest shrine dies into someone else's prophecy. Stories made it back before bodies did. Curonian priests reading futures in opened bellies. Names cut from souls. The waves off homeland bobbed with planks, and men who didn't know which god would accept them now. Panic radiated west like a disease. Sigtuna's traders insisted on weather as an explanation. Kings do not confess that the map beyond their horizon has learned how to read. Yet in market stalls and bathhouses, eyes that belonged to no one paid tally. How many ships? How much grain? The date of departure. By the time Sweden resolved to crush pirates, the pirates were already writing choreography. The Swedes answered with mass. The Leidang, 300 ships, 10,000 men, prayers and polished steel under July sun. They would burn the eastern shore to clinker and smoke and come home to songs. But the Baltic is not a parade ground. As the royal flotilla rode east to find a wall of shields, they found empty beaches, empty wells, empty sky. The enemy had evacuated not land, but certainty. In the quiet, the trap finished closing around the thing that mattered most. Not the army, the homeland. While Sweden's war fleet chased ghosts along Curonian forests, a small courier with real news slid the other way. The capital's wharves were guarded by old men and boys. Dawn over Lake Mälaren usually lifts like silk. That morning, it tore. 1,000 oars punched water in time. Low-draft hulls rode straight over submerged booms meant to snare heavy dracars. The men sprinted off their prows before timber kissed sand, leather and short axes flashing. Speed is a weapon against cities that think in walls. Within minutes, the gatehouse was a furnace and the guard a rumor. Sigtuna, the stone-built trade jewel, seat of bishop and mint, learned what a navy that studies physics can do to a city that studies taxes. No insults, no bargaining, only fire moving like a decision already made. Inside the cathedral, women and children gathered as if stone were sacrament enough. The archbishop lifted hands against men who did not believe his god could veto their mission. He died on the altar steps. The statement wasn't looting. It was geopolitics written in blood. The god of converted Vikings would not save their Rome. They took gold and reliquaries, yes, but they also took meaning. The bronze doors, masterpieces hammered with pride and stories, were unhinged, carted to boats, and laid among ropes and oars. Victors carry symbols when they want to haunt a people. Meanwhile, smoke lifted so dense that farmers 20 kilometers away thought noon had come and died. Far to the east, King Knut Eriksson's grand offensive dissolved into arguments with swamps. Guides, coerced into cooperation, shepherded the army in circles. Pack horses snapped legs in black mud. Sentries vanished between breaths, leaving only dented helms and moss as signatures. You can fight a spear. You cannot fight a forest that refuses to be present. Discipline frayed, then faith. Every day wasted in Curonia was a day Sigtuna bled. When the fleetless king finally turned, the coast put a knife in his back. Curonian raiders had waited in quiet inlets, then slid out to the Swedish beachhead, lighting 50 unattended holes and pinning dead guards to sand with black-fletched arrows. On the horizon, a tattered fishing boat hove into view, terror for sail. The messenger collapsed at Knut's feet and delivered the only line history would keep. Sigtuna is gone. Helmets lowered, not in mourning, but in understanding. They had not been outfought, they had been outthought, and the voyage home would not be homecoming. The Baltic rewards fear with teeth. What follows a sack is not rest, it is pursuit. The wolves had learned to hunt at sea. Retreat is a different kind of war. The Ledang limped west in a tight herd, oars creaking, captains scanning fog and maps as if both could be convinced to behave. Near Gotska Sandon, the weather played accomplice, drawing a gray curtain, then pulling it back to reveal a geometry of death. Curonian and Oeselian cutters, small, fast, painted the color of water, materialized along the flanks like mistakes made visible. They did not try to board. Why offer themselves to axes and pride? They raced the Swedish line and hurled clay jars, boiling fat, flaming pitch. Their goal was not men, it was cloth. Set a sail on fire, and you remove a ship from the problem set. One by one, squares of canvas became suns, and the formation became panic. In a long ship, fire is hunger with perfect manners. It eats forward, aft, then you. Men leapt into slate water, still wearing iron because drowning beats burning in the hierarchy. Sailors carry in their bones. A veteran jarl from Uppsala broke ranks to ram the gnats. His big hull turned like a cathedral. The gnats circled like mathematics and picked his rowers apart with short spears, then left the carcass spinning as lesson. On the flagship, Knut watched the equation resolve. Stop to rescue, and the pack will encircle everyone. He chose the uglier calculus. Sail on, listen to your own men drown behind you. Hope enough hulls remain to show a flag in your own harbor. 2 days later, Sweden's coast finally rose up out of weather. The smell arrived before the view. Burned timber and meat on wind. In the bay where childhoods had learned to swim, piers were char. Houses were empty rooms full of ash, and silence had replaced commerce. Warriors who had slept on corpses without blinking wept out of something that wasn't grief so much as recognition. A king who cannot hold the hearth has no throne, only a hat. Knut dropped his helmet. Metal rang in a square that had forgotten echo. But loss is also instruction. The Baltic had just taught the North that the men in the trees could plan at continental scale. Decoys on one coastline, annihilation on another. Hit the symbol, not the sword. The Curonians and Oeselians had converted humiliation into doctrine. Choose the terrain, shoals, fog, winter. Choose the target, supply, morale, meaning. Refuse the fight your enemy wants, and never worship honor more than victory. Sweden would rebuild. Revenge would gather. Yet when it came, the enemy would not be a clan with light hulls. It would be faith with walls. The next banners arriving over the horizon would carry crosses, not ravens, and they would not come to raid. They would come to stay. Rome looked north and saw stubborn maps. Pope Innocent III did something no scold had a song for. He pointed a crusade not toward Jerusalem, but toward the last pagans of Europe. The spear point wasn't farmers with axes. It was the Livonian brothers of the sword, warrior monks with rules, payrolls, and engineering. They came up the Daugava in ships that waddled like barns and laughed at reefs because they carried quarried rock. They hadn't come to burn, they had come to build. Riga rose not as palisade, but as promise, stone that ignored fire. The tribes charged as they always had, fast, screaming, accurate. Their arrows scratched masonry like thorns against glacier. From the walls, a new sound, the dry thrum of crossbows. Each bolt a peasant's finger becoming a kingmaker. A Viking longbow asks for years. A crossbow asks for an hour and a crank. Curonian bravado bled out under geometry and lime mortar. Yet walls were only the first sermon. Bishop Albert understood that rule requires projection. Outrode heavy cavalry, statues of steel on horses taught to kill, mail to hoof. Physics replaced tactics. Mass times velocity, lances longer than doubt. Javelins bounced like rain off tiled roofs. The impact did not break the tribal line so much as delete it. Bodies crumpled under iron hooves. Men became holes in snow. When the killing stopped, the brothers of the sword did not cheer. They cleaned blades, prayed briefly, and formed up again. Efficiency scarier than rage. Terror teaches, and the forest remembers. In Lithuania and Semigalia, a council gathered beneath pines older than any bishop. Old shamans and young warlords admitted an unromantic truth. Courage without tools is a ritual of self-destruction. To survive the iron gospel, you must either steal it, blunt it, or make it fall. Winter offered an answer. At 30 below, armor is not protection, it's punishment. Touch your own sword with bare skin, and it takes your fingerprints as tribute. So the tribes altered war. Skis and snowshoes replaced boots. Signals traveled as bird calls. Raids became observation, harassment, starvation. They herded the Crusaders where roads lie and rivers pretend to be roads. Onto ice and into marsh hardening to glass. The Grand Master, Volquin, mistook frost for highway and scripture for a plan. He marched a gleaming serpent 2 kilometers long into country that eats shine for breakfast. At Saule, an open innocent meadow hid a bog asleep beneath sugar. When 500 mailed horses slammed down with riders and lances, ice remembered it was only a surface. The charge stumbled, then stopped as if God had put a palm on its chest. From the flanks, men in fur became physics professors with clubs. You don't pierce a knight. You invert him, drown him, or dent him until the skull inside remembers it is bone. Vulcan died not as symbol, but as man. Tendons cut, pride intact, then spears pinning a doctrine to the earth. In under an hour, the brothers of the sword lost their head and much of their spine. The forest smiled with its teeth hidden. Saul decapitated an order. It did not end the campaign. Rome folded the survivors into something larger and meaner, the Teutonic Order, and pointed them east. Pskov fell like a door left on the latch. The road to Novgorod looked open until a 20-year-old prince named Alexander chose the least sensible battlefield in Russia, the spring ice of Lake Peipus. Heavy cavalry loves flat ground. He offered the flattest in Europe, knowing April ice is a liar. Teutonic commanders formed their boar snout wedge, saw militia in the Russian center, and drooled behind visors. The charge thudded, smashed the middle, and kept pressing, drunk on momentum. Then the trap closed. Light horse on the flanks cut at mounts. Arrows needled joints, and the lake began to speak, in groans and lightning black cracks racing under hooves. Plate that makes a man a tank on dirt makes him an anchor in meltwater. One night vanished into darkness, then 10. Then the inside of the wedge became a churn where physics wrote the liturgy. Novgorod's cavalry hunted for 7 kilometers over white and red. The battle on the ice did more than save a city. It drew a border on climate and creed that would bruise Europe for centuries. watching both Crusaders and Russians bleed. A Lithuanian warlord stared at the arithmetic and saw a third way. Mindaugas didn't want glory. He wanted survival scaled up to destiny. He offered Rome a paradox. Baptize me and crown me king, and your crusade loses its excuse. The papacy blinked, then agreed. In 1253, a pagan realm put on Christian clothing without changing its bones. One letter shut down what 1,000 spears had not. The compromise was acid at home. Priests arrived with Latin and ledgers. Old gods smoldered but did not die. Mindaugas used the pause like a locksmith uses a file. Buy time, unify clans, pay allies, murder rivals. The Grand Duchy took shape in council smoke and night rides. Iber, learning how to wear a cloak and sit at a table without forgetting how to maul. But the sword orders do not forget insults. Absorbed, rearmed, and righteous, the Teutons returned to the Baltic, determined to replace tolerance with architecture. Castles climbed from riverbanks. Supply lines hardened. Recruiters dragged Curonians and Estonians into auxiliary ranks at spear point, assuming obedience can be forged like mail. Ambition on both sides fattened and began to wobble. Pressure makes systems brittle. Betrayal waits for brittle, like winter waits for leaves. July 13th, 1260, Lake Derby. The Teutonic Order arrived with its largest host yet. Hundreds of mailed brothers, ranks of foot, and allies from conquered shores. The field looked scripted. Crush Samogitian rebels, harvest heads, end the nuisance. Then Curonian and Estonian auxiliaries lowered spears and smiled at their masters. They turned. The knife went in from inside the formation. Chaos is exponential when it starts behind your eyes. 150 brothers died. Banners trampled in meat-thick mud. The marshal down. The Virgin's flag ground into the earth by men who remembered their shrines in pine shadow. Derby did what battles rarely do. It detonated a region. The Prussian uprising ignited and burned for 14 years, erasing decades of Black Cross progress one garrison at a time. Castles that were supposed to civilize forests learned what fire and starvation do to stone when the countryside hates you. Mindaugas read the omen, tore off his cross, and torched the churches he had permitted. Experiment over, his actions said. Diplomacy buys time. It does not buy obedience. Lithuania would be pagan power or ash. There would be no acceptable middle. From the smolder rose something Europe hadn't penciled in. A sovereign pagan state swallowing rivers like roads, pushing east and south until its shadow lay on the Black Sea. The Grand Duchy of Lithuania became nightmare and necessity. Shield against the Golden Horde, hammer against the orders, a polity that prayed to thunder while negotiating in chancelleries. Sweden never reowned the Baltic. The Teutons broke their teeth for good at Grunwald generations later, under flags carried by descendants of men once dismissed as tree people. What began as a routine Swedish raid ended as a cartographer's shock. The forest tribes who learned to ghost through archipelagos, who invented naval guerrilla in shoals and winter warfare in marsh and ice, turned terror into institution. They beat longships with sandbars, beat cathedrals with fire, beat cavalry with physics, and beat crusades with paperwork until they could meet them again with lances. The lesson is not romance. It is math with blood in the margins. Underestimate a people, and you become their curriculum. Attack the edges, and they will attack your center. Bring faith as a weapon, and someone will weaponize conversion. In the end, the Baltic was no one's private lake and no one's tidy mission field. It was a graveyard for certainty, Viking certainty, Crusader certainty, anyone's certainty that wolves rule forever. Ask the bronze doors of Sigtuna where they are now. Ask the ice on Papus what it remembers. Ask the tribes who learned to hunt the hunters, then learned to govern them.